Welcome to Tales from the Dark Side, hosted by me, best-selling author Conrad Jones. Tonight, the door creaks open, the lights grow dim, and you are invited into the shadows. Beyond this point lie disturbing events, twisted mysteries, and tales soaked in horror, some true, some even truer. Stories that crawl beneath your skin, whisper in the dark, and leave you questioning just how fragile your grip on reality really is. So grab yourself a brew, lock the doors, and listen carefully. Because once the darkness descends, it may never leave. This is Tales from the Dark Side, and the nightmares are only just beginning.
This episode contains reference to violence and sexual violence.
Chapter 4, The Paraffin Oil Lamp Pub. The Paraffin Lamp Pub had a roof that leaked, and it smelled of chips and fish and scouse, which is a meat stew favoured by the locals. The exterior wall had bullet holes in exactly 13 places, which nobody could explain. The regulars have a knack of catching gossip like a spider catches a fly. Nothing stayed secret in that pub, not for long anyway. The gossip of the night was the police activity around St. Oswald's Church, a few hundred yards away. They had been there for hours, and CSI officers were on the scene, which meant someone was dead. There were rumours about St. Jude's house and evil goings-on, which began years ago, connected with a coven, seeking to tap into the discovery of 3,651 unmarked coffins in 1973. No one knew why they were there, or why they were stacked 16 deep, or who they were or how they got there, and all official records had been misplaced. The authorities said it had never happened, but everyone from Old Swan knew that it had. St. Jude's had become the haunted house in the area, the one that all the kids avoided or dared each other to go close to. The church maintained it badly and used it to accommodate visitors who were not held in high esteem, but no one ever stayed very long, and it became an afterthought. Money was tight for a shrinking religion, and the Catholic Church was in decline. Recently it was occupied by a Catholic priest named Father Cork, who was apparently on sick leave under the watchful eye of the St. Oswald's hierarchy. The locals speculated that a priest on sick leave was actually a paedophile who had been caught and removed from circulation while the church pushed everything under the carpet again. The pub was buzzing with many different opinions, despite there being no factual evidence of any wrongdoing. Priests were not as revered as they used to be, especially in the Paraffin Lamp. Dave Simmons liked the pub for the atmosphere and the lighting, mellow enough to lie and speculate with anonymity, and bright enough to make it not dingy. The humour in there was cutting, and the banter was brutal, and the characters made him laugh. He arrived in a cab and shrugged against the pounding rain as he ran to the door. The sign outside had once swung in the breeze, but now it hung still, rusty and turned to sculpture by the elements and salt in the air. When he walked in, the landlord Pat was behind the bar, eyes like a shithouse rat, missing nothing, seeing everything. He slid a pint of Guinness and a double Jack Daniels towards Dave without asking what he wanted. Dave took it and didn't say he would have prepared something non-alcoholic. He would be teetotal when he was dead, and that would be soon enough. The experience at 44 Penny Lane had rattled him to the core, but also fired his professional curiosity, and the fact that detectives were swarming all over St. Oswald proved his instinct was correct. He knew the source of most paranormal activity in the city was linked to its checkered history, centuries of slavery, 3 visits from the plague, the Irish famine which brought typhus with the refugees, not to mention 3,000 unmarked coffins and mysterious documents lost. They all had left powerful pockets of bad energy, which could be channeled by some who chose to create chaos and destruction. He was trying to make sense of the nonsensical. Evil attracts evil, and evil things have happened in this area. You look like something the dog wouldn't bother with, Pat said, not unkindly. Have you had a rough night? I thought I saw a ghost through a window, but I didn't, and then I found evidence of satanic activity and got pushed over by nothing at all, Dave said. All in a day's work, really. Are you pissed? Pat asked. No, but I'm about to start working on it. Satanic activity on Penny Lane, Pat whispered. His gaze flickered to the ceiling as if rural gods listened through the rafters of city pubs, and he whispered, You got my message on the phone then? Yes, Dave said. What's going on at St. Oswald's? Have you heard anything yet? No one knows anything yet, Pat said, but there are uniforms and suits all over the place and 2 CSI vans. 2? Dave repeated. It's definitely a murder, Dave. They don't have 2 CSI teams unless it's a real biggie. Pat whispered knowingly. A pedo priest has been living there for a few months, and I reckon someone has done him in. What makes you say that? Dave laughed. Just a hunch. Got what he deserved, if you ask me, Pat said, nodding. You don't know what happened yet, Dave laughed, shaking his head. How can you say he deserved it? Well, if he did get done over, he probably did deserve it. Fucking pedo. If you say so, Pat, Dave sighed, shaking his head. He sipped his pint and washed it down with the JD, which burned nicely. What did you want to speak to me about? Dave asked. There's all kinds of going on. I'm struggling to sleep at night, Pat said, shaking his head. The knocking and banging after closing are beyond a joke. The missus swears she saw a man standing at the bottom of the stairs again. That's the 3rd time in a month. How is she? Dave asked. She's fucked off to her sister's place for a week, Pat said, which is a blessing, but it's causing us problems. The job is hard enough as it is without that keeping us awake. He shrugged. Someone here is messing with dark stuff, Dave, and I don't mean Guinness. We found something beneath one of the tables in the snug. What did you find, Pat? And what makes you think it would possibly be of interest to me? I think it could be something connected to what you've been researching. Satanic shit going on. Pat's mouth shaped a smile and then discarded it quickly. He nodded towards the back room. You'll see. Al found it when he was having a go at the chewing gum. There's always bloody gum under the tables. Pat frowned, the deep lines creased his forehead. Whenever I see someone chewing gum, I tell them to throw it down the bog or put it in the bin behind the bar. He looked angry. If I catch the fuckers sticking it under my tables, I'll kip 'em up and down Edge Lane, scruffy fuckers. You're ranting, Pat, Dave chuckled. Calm down before you have a heart attack. Sorry. Let me show you what we found. Follow me. The back snug was a half room with a floral carpet and half its lights out. Once upon a time it would have been the only part of the pub that women could sit in. On the wall hung a photograph of the pub in the 50s. Horses out front, men in hats doing the theatre of not looking at the camera. Take a look under there. I'm not crawling around the snug, Pat, Dave said. Help me turn the table over. Oh, that's a good idea. Grab that side. They tipped the dark oak table upside down, and beneath it someone had carved a neat square. Inside the square, a 9-pointed star. Not a geometrical star, more interlocked, like bicycle spokes that didn't agree on the hub. Dave recognised it immediately. Fucking hell, he muttered. That stopped being there for a long time, Pat. I could tell from the colour of the scar of the wood. What is it? Pat asked. Something satanic? Yeah. Niners, Dave said. He felt a shiver run through him. Who? The Order of 9 Angels. Weren't they the nutters who had an altar beneath Brick Street a few years back? That's them, Dave nodded. They tunnelled under the church into the crypt to perform their rituals. You think they've come back? Pat asked, shaking his head. I don't think they left, Dave said. Dave studied the scratches beneath the star. Under it, in a tidy hand, more schoolmarm than thug, a phone number. You recognise the number? No. Could it possibly be one of your regulars? Dave asked. Nah, Pat shook his head. I called it, went straight to voicemail. He lowered his voice. I left a message. What did you say? I told them if I catch them carving shit under my tables, I'll take their knife and shove it up their ring piece. Quality, Pat. Pure quality. Dave shook his head. Have they called you back? No. I wonder why that is. Dave leaned over and ran a finger just above the carving, not touching it. He could feel energy coming from it, bad energy. Whoever cut it had cared to hide it underneath the table and cared later to make sure it was not found. But they hadn't factored Alf being on the chewing gum removal duty. He took a photo. The autofocus caught perfectly this time. After his experience on Penny Lane, he should have been relieved to be back dealing with human mischief, but he wasn't. There was a connection to what he had seen earlier and what was happening now. He just didn't know what it was yet. You'll want to see the other bit, Pat said, winking. Alf kept it behind the optics because he's a magpie and a fucking idiot. What's the other bit? Dave asked. Follow me. They went back to the bar and Pat lifted a bottle of vodka far more expensive than the neighbourhood demanded. Behind it, in the shadow, lay a memory stick. Someone had written paraffin lamp copy in block capitals. On the back, in smaller script, a Latin phrase that Dave didn't recognise. Ad voluptatum. What does that mean? Pat asked. Dave typed it into Google. For your pleasure, Dave said. Have you looked at what's on it? I don't have a disc player, Pat said. Do you? It's a USB, Pat, Dave laughed. It will plug into my laptop. Yes, I know that, Pat shrugged. No one likes a smart arse, you know. Let's have a look at it, Dave said. Dave grabbed his bag and took out his laptop, taking a seat in the snug away from the prying eyes in the bar. He opened the screen and slid the memory stick into the USB. The image of a naked man kneeling in the centre of a 9-angled star, candles burning, others standing around chanting. He was shaking with fear and crying, tears streaked his cheeks. Another naked man was wearing a ram's head skull, approached him and urinated on him. This is sick. What the fuck? Pat whispered, not wanting to attract attention. Is this weird porn? I don't think so, Pat. Dave shook his head. This is much worse than that. The images vanished, and there were 6 seconds of static. Not the soft fuzz of a broken television. This is harsher. A violent snowstorm of white and grey tearing across the screen, accompanied by a low technical hum that seemed too deep to come from the camera itself. Then a face appeared on the screen, a man, pale, sweating, breathing hard. Are you filming? Okay, the man whispers, it's recording. This is where they were holding their seances. He turned the camera towards the cellar room behind him. The room is enormous, far larger than the outside of the house should allow it to be. Stone walls disappear into darkness. Candles burn, and along the floor, in a perfect circle, their flames bending inwards despite a lack of wind. The man on the camera said, Tom said this place was abandoned. A nervous laugh. Clearly Tom was wrong, the other man said. But this is where they do their devil shit, right? Tom said so. The camera moves forward. On the floor are symbols carved into the stone. 3 9-angled stars and the mark 666. Some are old enough to have been worn smooth by time. Others are fresh. The cuts still pale against the black floor. In the centre of the room sits a wooden chair. It's empty. The camera zooms in and there is something tied to the chair. Not a person, just a coat. An old man's coat. hanging there as if someone had simply stood up and left it many years ago. The cameraman steps closer and zoomed in on the dry blood pooled beneath the sleeves. A noise comes from behind them. "Hello?" His voice echoes. Then another voice answers, a whisper from somewhere behind him. "Get out." The camera jerks around. Nothing, only darkness. "Who's there?" A pause. Then from the far side of the basement, "Get out." The man freezes. The footage shakes as he slowly looks down. His hands are visible holding the camera. The whisper comes again, but it's closer this time. "Get out." He backs away. The candles around the circle begin going out one by one, not flickering, not dying, being exhausted quickly. Something moves between the pillars at the edge of the room. It's too tall, too thin. The camera struggles to focus, the image smearing every time it passes over the shape. The man turns towards the exit, but the door is gone. Where the stairs were is now a wall of rough stone, with the markings 666. "No, no, no, no," the man screamed. He runs to it and pounds on the bricks. The camera drops briefly. The microphone catches his breathing, and another sound, footsteps behind him, slow, heavy, approaching from behind. He picks up the camera, but the room is empty. Empty, except for the chair. Except now the coat is gone. But the chair is occupied. A figure sits in it, facing away from the camera. The man's voice is barely audible. "I told you to leave." The figure doesn't move. There's a long silence. Then the figure speaks. The voice is not loud. It doesn't need to be. "You weren't invited to watch. You should have left while you could." The camera zooms in. The figure's head turns around. Too far. 360 degrees. Far beyond what a human neck should allow. Looking behind itself. The chin between his shoulder blades. The face is obscured by darkness, but 2 points of reflected candlelight appear where the eyes should be. The man screams, his jaw dislocated. The footage falls sideways. For the next 43 seconds, the camera records only the floor. A struggle, and a lit sounds like someone choking. It sounds like something laughing, a demonic laugh, and then screaming, and then silence. The camera remains on as a shadow crosses the lens. A hand picks it up. The image steadies. The person holding it is breathing softly. "They were warned," a woman's voice whispers. "Bring me the priest." The film stopped. "Fuck me, was that a horror film?" Pat asked. "That was shit acting." "I have no idea what that was," Dave said, "but it's coming on again." The camera turned towards the chair this time. It is empty again, the footage focused, and the camera changes angles, and the priest came into view, frightened, shaking eyes wide and staring. 2 men held his right hand in the air while another unfurled his fingers and cut off his little finger with secateurs. The priest screamed, but the men just laughed and cut off his ring finger. Blood spurted into the air. One of the men sucked the blood from the stumps. The middle finger was snipped off, and then the priest was thrown face down on the floorboards. His trousers were pulled down with one tug. "What the fuck are we watching? Is this a slash movie or something?" Pat asked, shocked. "Tell me what this is." They watched in horror, fascinated yet transfixed as the severed fingers were inserted into the priest's anus. His hands were tied to the front and he was dragged away. The camera panned again. Several people were fornicating, some couples, some multiples. Some couldn't be made out at all. They were all wearing animal masks. The camera focused on the man in the circle, naked and terrified, a double-barreled shotgun forced into his mouth. A naked black woman was standing over him, beautiful and magnetizing. She was the only one not wearing a mask. She looked into the camera, smiling as she pulled the trigger. The shotgun roared and the back of the man's head exploded up the wall behind him. Blood and brains dripped from the ceiling onto her face. Pink goo, white mush. And she continued to smile as she licked the pink goo from her skin.
Looking for your next dark obsession? Best-selling thriller author Conrad Jones has gripped over 3 million readers worldwide with 38 brutal, fast-paced thrillers across 6 explosive series. From serial killers to organised crime and psychological terror, these books don't let you go. Search Conrad Jones on Amazon today, if you dare.
Chapter 5. Nick Vincent sat alone in a rented Audi overlooking the Albert Dock. Rain pattered softly against the windscreen. Liverpool glittered across the water, reflected in the black surface of the Mersey. The city looked beautiful at night. Nick hated it. Beauty implied peace, and peace was something he no longer possessed. He sought chaos. 7 years. 7 years inside a concrete box. 7 years measuring life in meals, lockdowns, head counts. 7 years watching the clocks. Prison taught a man strange things: patience, resentment, obsession, and that every second mattered. Every minute became something tangible, something to survive, something to count. But now he was free, at least for the moment. The government had opened the gates because of overcrowding, a bureaucratic mistake, a temporary inconvenience. Nick knew better than anyone that mistakes get corrected. Sooner or later, someone would realise exactly who they had released. When that happened, they would come looking for him, but until then, he had work to do. Certain things remained unfinished, certain people still owed him, and some debts couldn't be forgotten. He was about to collect on them all. His phone screen illuminated briefly. 10:02 p.m. It's almost time. Across the cobbled street, the door of a Chinese takeaway opened. A large man emerged, carrying 2 bags of food. Nick watched him closely. His jaw tightened. It was David Johnson. He was one of the men whose testimony had helped put him behind bars. It looked like David had done well for himself. Designer clothes, expensive watch, new Range Rover parked nearby. It looked like the years had been kind to him. Nick found that deeply offensive. The passenger door opened and a young woman smiled at David as he climbed into the vehicle. Nick studied her. Pretty. Hurting her would be fun. He would make him watch. She was too young for him anyway, probably unaware of exactly who she was sitting beside. David had been a part of it all, on the periphery of the cult, but a willing participant. Most people wore masks, human masks. Everyone hid who they really were, sometimes, and David was no exception. Nick would make sure that everyone knew what a vile human being he was. He felt his pulse quicken. It would be soon, very soon. A sharp knock on the window beside him made him jump. His head snapped sideways. 2 police officers stood outside watching him. The older officer looked familiar and Nick recognised him instantly. Sergeant Liam Gallagher. Merseyside Police had a station based across the road at Canning Place. Gallagher was a man Nick had spent years imagining hurting. Slowly, carefully. It would happen one day soon. Nick lowered the window and cold air rushed inside. "Pay attention," Liam said to the junior officer. "This is Nick Vincent. Remember him? He's a domestic abuser, sex offender, paedophile and all-round scumbag." "Good evening, Nick." Gallagher's voice carried no warmth whatsoever. "Fancy meeting you here. Dog shit turns up everywhere, doesn't it?" Nick said, smiling. The smile never reached his eyes. They were full of hate. "Good evening, Sergeant Gallagher. What a cunt." "You watch your mouth, Vincent," Gallagher said. "Or what?" Nick sneered. "Are you going to arrest me for being nasty to you, using rude words?" "I'll think of something to charge you with." Liam held his temper. "I thought you still had a few years left." "So did I," Vincent said. Gallagher stared at him. Neither man blinked. Nick looked the younger officer in the eyes and he shifted uncomfortably beside him. He clearly sensed the hostility inside Nick and it scared him. Nick could taste his fear. Good. Fear was filthy. Fear kept people quiet. Nick gestured to him. Is this your new boyfriend? Nick asked. Is he making you suck his dick in the car? He's still as funny as monkeypox, I see, Gallagher said. Be careful around him, officer, Nick warned the young policeman. If you drop your keys on the floor, don't bend over to pick them up. You know what I mean? He winked. You should be careful, Gallagher said. Why's that, Liam? Nick asked. Voice ice cold, eyes black at the centre and piercing. What are you going to do? You're on licence, you've just been released. I am, yes. In that case, get out of the vehicle. Oh, fuck off, Nick sighed dramatically. You know what, Liam, some people would know their limits, but not you. Don't start what you can't finish. How is it you must be a cunt at every opportunity? Get out of the vehicle now, Gallagher ordered. The second officer stepped back. His hand rested near his pepper spray. Nick noticed. He noticed everything. Nick caught him with his gaze. If you touch that pepper spray, we're going to have a problem, and you won't like how it ends. The young officer moved his hand away from the spray. Good boy, Nick added sarcastically. Slowly, Nick climbed out of the car and the rain dampened his shoulders immediately. Gallagher moved closer, not intimidated, not afraid. That annoyed Nick, because most people were afraid of him. They should have been. He was a fucking nutcase and proud of it. He was going to make it a priority to make him scared. What are you doing here? Officer Gallagher asked. There's a Chinese over there. I'm buying dinner. Oh, really? Where are you living? The policeman asked. Why? Do you want to call round for a brew and a catch-up? Funny, the policeman said. One more time. What are you doing in this part of the city? Liam Gallagher asked. There are injunctions on where you can go. I fancy some crispy duck, Nick shrugged. Not many ducks, crispy or otherwise, in the big house. He looked at the young police officer. Do you know what the big house is? The young officer nodded that he did. I've been eating shite for 7 years, Liam. Give me a fucking break. I don't believe you. Stay there and say fuck all while I check your vehicle. It's hired, Liam, you fucking clown. Anything you find in there doesn't belong to me. Maybe so, but winding you up is so much fun. Officer Gallagher looked through the vehicle, checking, searching every inch with his eyes, but finding nothing. The Audi was spotless, no weapons, no drugs, nothing. Nick had learned long ago not to carry any evidence. Tell me, what are you really doing here, Nick? Okay, you've got me. I lied, Nick smiled again. The expression felt unnatural on his face. I'm not here for crispy duck. I'm actually here for pork balls. Do you like pork balls, officer? The young officer blushed. I bet you like Liam's pork balls, don't you? Take no notice of him, he thinks he's a fucking comedian, Officer Gallagher said. I've done my time. I'm just trying to mind my own business and keep my nose clean. Live and let die, Liam. Nick shrugged. I suggest you do the same. I'm doing my job, Gallagher said. The two men stared at one another, and the rain intensified. Traffic moved through the city beyond them, but nobody paid attention. Nobody noticed and nobody cared. Yet Nick could feel the tension growing like a wire being stretched too far. He would regret this. He would deeply regret it. Finally, Gallagher spoke. David Johnson came out of that takeaway 5 minutes ago. Nick remained silent. He testified at your trial, didn't he? I can't remember, to be honest, Nick said. I think you were watching him, Officer Gallagher said. Still silence. Are you thinking about doing something stupid, like Nick said? I think you were watching him, Officer Gallagher said. Still silence. The younger officer glanced between them, unsure where the conversation was heading. Nick stared at him and he lowered his eyes, scared. Nick enjoyed that. Uncertainty and fear made people vulnerable. Are you thinking about doing something stupid like attacking David Johnson, Vincent? Liam asked sarcastically. Please do something stupid so that I can bang you up again where you belong. I have no idea what you're talking about. Come to think of it, I don't know anyone called David Johnson. Officer Gallagher laughed out loud, a cold sound. That's strange. Because you nearly snapped your neck trying to attack him in court. For a moment, Nick's smile vanished. Only for a second, but Gallagher caught it, and Nick knew he had. The sergeant stepped back a pace. His young partner stepped back 2 paces. Rainwater dripped from the brim of his cap. Listen to me carefully. The sarcasm had disappeared completely, replaced by anger. This city remembers what you did, Vincent. They remember that you're a rapist paedophile, and there are some very dangerous people in this city who don't like pedos. Nick's eyes darkened, but Gallagher continued. People remember what you did to Megan Foster. The name landed like a punch. Nick felt anger flare instantly. Violent, sudden, hot. The effort required to control it was enormous. Officer Gallagher noticed too. Good policemen always noticed when a suspect was reaching boiling point. All those charges were dropped, officer. I wasn't convicted of anything to do with children, and if you call me a paedophile again, I'll call my solicitor, and he will make sure that you lose your job. You walked on those charges because nobody came to court. That's called witness intimidation. You got away with it that time, but we'll have you, Vincent. The courts didn't believe you, neither do we. Nick said nothing. Megan was the only one you couldn't scare off, and the jury believed her. The judge believed her. The press and the public believed her. Everyone knows you're a sick-fuck paedophile, and it's just a matter of time before we prove it, lock you up, and throw away the key. The younger officer shifted his weight again, uncomfortable. The atmosphere had become toxic and dangerous. Nick could feel his fear. He imagined grabbing Gallagher by the throat. He imagined hearing cartilage snap as he ripped his throat out with his teeth. And he imagined watching the life leave his eyes as he tasted his blood. The image lingered, and it comforted him. Have you finished? Nick asked quietly, eyes penetrating his soul. Gallagher didn't move. No. The word hung between them, heavy, final. If Megan reports so much as a phone call from you, we'll be knocking on your door and marching you back where you belong. You seem overly concerned, Nick said. He smiled once more, a terrible smile. His pupils darkened, black as space. It made the younger officer take an unconscious step backwards. You seem very concerned about Megan. I'm not playing around, Vincent, Officer Gallagher said. Are you fucking her? Nick asked slowly. Because I fucked her all round the place. Every which way, and she loved every minute. The rougher the better, that dirty bitch. She couldn't get enough. You wouldn't last 5 minutes with a woman like that, Gallagher. Stick to bumming young policemen in uniform. Nick glared, no humour in his eyes, just hatred. Something else, much darker. You leave the women to me. Women? Do you mean young girls and boys? Gallagher's eyes narrowed. He was waiting for Nick Vincent to lose his shit. That's enough, Nick shouted, his mouth a snarl. Gallagher staggered back a pace, as if he'd been pushed hard by an invisible hand. Blood ran from both nostrils. His eyes wide with shock and pain. He wiped the blood with his back of his hand and looked at it in disbelief. Nick saw fear in his eyes and smiled. What the fuck? Gallagher gasped. Now you listen to me. Nick pointed a finger to his ear. Listen hard. I know that your father had a stroke and sleeps downstairs, and your mother is in a home, sitting in her own piss. Your sister looks after them both, and she prefers pussy to cock. She always sleeps with the window open, which is dangerous. Nick turned to the young policeman. Your girlfriend Charlotte is fucking your best friend Paul, and you're fucking a young PC at the station who is married with 2 kids. That's going to end in tears. Your parents hate you being a police officer. They wanted you to follow your father into the plumbing business. They live in Southport near the pier, and their patio doors don't lock properly. Nick paused and glared at both. Do you see where this is heading? The officers looked at each other, blood dripping freely from Gallagher's nose. Fuck with me for 1 second more and your worlds will fall apart. He paused to take a breath. I've got places to be and people to see, and you're boring the shit out of me, Nick said. He nodded and sighed. You'll get what's coming to you, Liam, and it will be sooner than you think. Are you threatening me, Vincent? I don't make threats. That's a promise. Don't you go near my family. Or what, Liam? The rain hammered against the pavement. Cars hissed past. Neither man looked away. They were frozen with fear. Finally, Nick climbed back into the Audi. The engine started and the headlights illuminated the wet road. Before raising the window, he looked directly at Gallagher. Tell David Johnson something from me. Gallagher remained silent. Nick's smile widened. Tell him I'm out and Karma is a bitch. And that's a promise too. Then he drove away and the Audi disappeared into the Liverpool night. For several moments neither officer moved. The younger constable exhaled first. Fucking hell, that was intense. How does he know all those things about us? I don't know, Gallagher said. Fucking hell, that man is frightening, the young officer said. Don't lose your mind, Gallagher said. He's had a lot of time on his hands, and they have access to the internet on the inside. Are you saying his research does? Because I'm not having that. No one knows I've been seeing Carol, and how does he know Daniela is playing away, and that shit about my parents is all true? He's a freak. I can see it in his eyes. He's fucking dangerous. Oh, he's beyond dangerous. That man is pure evil. Gallagher watched the taillights vanish. A deep sense of dread settled in his stomach. Not because Nick had threatened him, or that part scared the shit out of him. There was something else. The certainty in Nick's eyes. The certainty that he had already made plans, and whatever those plans were, they had already begun. Thank you for listening to the Tales of the Dark Side by me, Conrad Jones.
You've been listening to Tales from the Dark Side with best-selling author Conrad Jones. This podcast is produced by me, Laura Raymond, with music from Stanley T. Jones. Find links to Conrad Jones's books and his Amazon page in the show notes of this podcast, or search on Amazon.